Well, folks, Barack and Michelle Obama both got into college through affirmative action, undoubtedly, and both of them are very upset that the Supreme Court just decided that you can no longer use race for admissions when it comes to college. Barack and Michelle Obama are sounding off on this. Michelle Obama is leading the way. She is, by the way, she was always far more radical than Barack. Barack is a very radical person. Michelle Obama was always way more radical. She wrote her entire thesis at Princeton University on how discriminated against she was as a black woman at Princeton University. She had a real rough life. Princeton University, followed by Harvard Law School, followed by a cush law firm job, followed by being married to the guy who ended up president of the United States. I mean, it's been real rough. Anyway, Michelle Obama writes, quote, "Back in college, I was one of the few black students on my campus, and I was proud of getting into such a respected school. So first of all, I know people who are at Princeton at the same time she was. It's not true. There were a lot of black students on campus. I knew I'd worked hard for it. But still, I sometimes wondered if people thought I got there because of affirmative action. It was a shadow that students like me couldn't shake, whether those doubts came from outside or inside our own minds." Well, I mean, that's because those doubts are true. I mean, of course people will have doubts about whether you deserve to be there when literally the standard is lowered for people because of their color. Of course that's true. Quote, "But the fact is this, I belonged." Well, by whose standard? Really, by whose standard? Not by the meritocratic standards, apparently, according to you. If by I belonged, you mean that you have self-esteem now? I mean, I'm glad you have self-esteem, I suppose. I'm not so glad that somebody who's better qualified didn't get in because you had to have your self-esteem boost or whatever. Semester after semester, decade after decade, for more than half a century, countless students like me showed they belong too. Well, actually, a ton of them dropped out because they couldn't hack it. But it wasn't just the kids of color who benefited either. Every student who heard a perspective they might not have encountered, who had an assumption challenge, who had their minds and their hearts open, gained a lot as well. Okay, that speaks to life experience. It does not speak to color. It wasn't perfect, but there's no doubt it helped offer new ladders of opportunity for those who throughout our history have too often been denied a chance to show how fast they can climb. Of course, says Michelle Obama, students on my campus and countless others across the country were and continue to be granted special consideration for admissions. Some have parents who graduated from the same school. Others have families who can afford coaches to help them run faster or hit a ball harder. Others go to high school with lavish resources for tutors and extensive standardized test prep that help them score higher on college entrance exams. We don't usually question if those students belong. So first of all, I've questioned legacy admissions for literally as long as I've been talking about this. I don't like legacy admissions. There's really no point to them. I assume the idea there is just it's donor-based. They want people to give donations because this is quote-unquote my family school. As for student athletes, that disproportionately benefits people who could not get in academically, and very often those are people of minority ethnicity. As far as standardized test prep and all the rest of this, a lot of that stuff is now available for free in public schools. It's just that people do not take advantage of those courses at the same rates by race. Let's talk about something amazing that you can do for your parents. You can do for yourself. Out in your garage right now, you got a bunch of boxes of old film reels, old VHS tapes, old pictures, and all that stuff is just falling apart. You don't have a VHS player anymore. You don't have a VCR. So what are you going to do with it? You're going to send it over to Legacy Box and you're going to preserve it forever. Do you know where that box of old home movies is? Well, it's moldering out in the garage. Stop that. Instead, send it to Legacy Box. They've helped my dad preserve and relive some of his most treasured memories. Using their all-in-one kit, he sent in old tapes and film. Their team of experts digitized them by hand with the utmost care and attention. In just a few short weeks, he received his originals back along with beautifully crafted digital copies he can easily share with our family and friends. It's incredible to be able to access some of these old home videos because you can see memories that have been basically buried for decades on end. The best part, with Legacy Box's exclusive tracking system, you'll know exactly where your order is every step of the way. It's a fantastic service. I've used it for my parents. I've used it for my wife's parents. We've used it ourselves. Don't let the summer's heat age your videotapes, film reels, and fade your photos. Legacy Box is right now offering my listeners an incredible $9 tape offer that's over 60% off. It's an exclusive offer for my listeners. Visit legacybox.com/Shapiro. Shop $9 tape and film transfers. There's a limited quantity available. They are selling fast. That's legacybox.com/Shapiro. If you're hiring, you probably are dealing with a lot of economic uncertainty right now. We all are. Right now, it's important to hire the right people faster and more efficiently to keep costs overall down. Thankfully, ZipRecruiter is a hiring partner who's focused on you and your needs. From pricing to technology, everything ZipRecruiter does is for you. What works best for you? Right now, you can try them for free at ZipRecruiter.com/dailywire. ZipRecruiter's smart technology identifies the best matches for your job and lets you invite candidates you really want to apply to your job before other businesses can snag them. I love how their pricing is absolutely straightforward. You know what you pay before you post your job. You can stick to your budget with no surprises. Hire the best with the help of a partner who's all about you with ZipRecruiter. 4 out of 5 employers who post on ZipRecruiter get a quality candidate within day one. Just go to this exclusive web address to try ZipRecruiter for free. ZipRecruiter.com/dailywire. Again, that's ZipRecruiter.com/DAILYWIRE. ZipRecruiter is indeed the smartest way to hire. Go check them out right now. We've been using them at Daily Wire ourselves since like 2017. You should do the same. There's no reason not to use ZipRecruiter in recruiting the best people for your job. ZipRecruiter.com/dailywire. She says, Often, we just accept that money, power, and privilege are perfectly justifiable forms of affirmative action, while kids growing up like I did are expected to compete when the ground is anything but level. Well, except that, again, the Supreme Court explicitly says that you can say that there is a class distinction between you and the other applicant. I scored 50 points lower on the SAT because I had to teach myself while I was riding to work because I had to help support my family. Okay, that goes in an essay, and that will help you, undoubtedly. That has nothing to do with race. So today, says Michelle Obama, my heart breaks for any young person out there who's wondering what their future holds and what kind of chances will be open to them. And while I know the strength and grit that lies inside kids who have always had to sweat a little more to climb the same ladders, I hope and I pray the rest of us are willing to sweat a little too. Today's a reminder, we have to do the work, not just to enact policies that reflect our values of equity and fairness, but to make those values real in all of our schools, workplaces, and neighborhoods, except by giving black kids the opportunity to go to a charter school, or giving them a school voucher, or by breaking the garbage teachers unions, or by making sure that black parents get married at a higher rate, or by making sure that black students study more. All those things we can't do. But we can do is about it a lot. And we can say that Michelle Obama got to go to Princeton because she scored lower on her SATs, but she was black, and so should you. Like, don't solve any of the systemic problems that actually lead to the disparity. Just blame race. Then Barack Obama put out like a 2-sentence statement, quote, like any policy, affirmative action wasn't perfect, but it allowed generations of students like Michelle and me to prove we belonged. Now it's up to all of us to give young people the opportunities they deserve and help students everywhere benefit from new perspectives. Well, wow, that's it. You could prove, you know what's one way to prove you belong at a school? By scoring appropriately to get into that school. It's an amazing way to prove you belong to that school. It really is an incredible thing. Okay, so Barack and Michelle Obama sounding off. Gavin Newsom sounded off as well, which is always fun. The governor of California put out a tweet, quote, they want to whitewash our nation's history. They want to bring America back to the era of book bans and segregated campuses. We cannot let them. Well, I did notice one thing, which is that in your state of California, affirmative action has been banned since 1996, and they re-upped that ban in 2020. So why don't you start at home, my friend? Meanwhile, Elizabeth Warren, who literally touted herself as a Native American despite no Native American background, said, quote, an extremist Supreme Court has once again reversed decades of settled law, rolled back the march toward racial justice, and narrowed educational opportunity for all. Here's the thing. Nobody on the left actually thinks racial justice is possible to achieve. They don't. Because the minute that happens, their entire gravy train goes away. That is the big problem. You have a massive incentive misalignment here. The same people who are claiming that they wish to pursue racial discrimination in order to end racial discrimination don't want racial discrimination to end because the goal is the means, not the end. They like the racial discrimination. It allows them power. It allows people like Elizabeth Warren to pretend she's fighting for a group of dispossessed youngsters. Quote, I won't stop fighting for young people with big dreams who deserve an equal chance to pursue their future. Hey, how about all of those actual Native Americans who didn't make it into school because you were the Native American appointment, Elizabeth? How about that? I assume that you took one of their slots. Meanwhile, Harvard University put out a statement basically saying that they won't comply. Segregation now, segregation forever. Dear members of the Harvard community, we write today to reaffirm the fundamental principle that deep and transformative teaching, learning, and research depends upon a community comprising people of many backgrounds, perspectives, and lived experiences. That principle is as true and important today as it was yesterday. And then they put out, they talk about how terrible this is, how horrifying all of this is. That was statement one. Then they put out a second one, quote, dear members of the Harvard community, a few hours ago, the Supreme Court issued its decision in our admissions case, a decision that carries weight, not only for Harvard as an institution, but for many of us as individuals. Today is a hard day. If you're feeling the gravity of that, I want you to know you're not alone. Oh, wow. You're not alone. So that is solid stuff. Alrighty, coming up, we are going to be joined by Coleman Hughes. He has a great piece on the end of affirmative action today. If you're not a member, become a member, use code Shapiro. Check out for 2 months free on all annual plans. Click that link in the description and join us.